No. I think we want the eyes smaller.
It seems pretty secure. Okay, now.
Okay.
Is this thing on? Hello? No? Hi! No, it's not turned on yet.
I was saying the same thing.
You're a speaker! Could I get your attention over here, please? You're a speaker! Could I get your attention over here, please?
Bring the O forward a little bit.
That looks so good.
Come over here in the front. We want to look good on TV. So we're going to bring folks, and we've got the signs here. Do you want them? They've already, it doesn't.
I just want to try to keep them all in the camera shot.
Rita, let's get Rita.
Daniel here?
As much. Daniel's right here. I'm right here. And Renee's here too, right? So she was here. Did you call her? She didn't answer. Anyone with a sign, come on up here, right up front. You got a sign, you guys. Everybody here, let's get some folks here. Can you? Right over here.
Yeah, I want them.
All right, guys, right in here, something if you can. Well, you're tall, and I don't want you to block her. Maybe you can come here, or you can stand behind me. That's good.
These signs?
You sign fine. That's fine. For now, we may change it up, but that's good. You can stand right there. That's good. Yeah. That's good.
Have a second one.
Step forward just a little bit. Good. O. People holding the O.
Anisha.
O.
Anisha.
Is that better?
Daniel. You guys move over a little. A.
Hey, everybody. Take 2 steps that way. 1.
Everyone take 2 steps. 1, 2. Perfect.
Hey, Ed. You want to? Oh, nurses. Great to see Judy Banks. Do you want to get more in?
Yeah.
Judy, stand right here.
My stuff, my bag.
No, and Mindy is standing. Mindy has trouble standing though, right? I want to get some OR shirts in here. Miles. We should get some more OR shirts in.
We should have a couple people get some up around. And then we can have someone stand right there.
Right next to the podium.
Yeah. We can have people stand up.
And can you stand right here?
And then you'll probably have to hold it up a little bit just because.
Just like that, girl. What's your name? Anne-Marie, thank you. That's good. Thank you.
I got it. I don't know. Rally it.
Safe.
All right, we have about 12 minutes before we go live. If you don't think your bladder will last for a whole hour, I will advise you that the public restrooms are across the street. You go through the doors that say retail entrance and shops, about 1,000 feet, and then the doors to the restrooms are opposite the hair cuttery. Good? So we'll be asking you to stand and shout for an hour, and then we'll walk across the street.
Well, I mean, I've only looked at
We're going to slap these on the columns over there so that everyone knows where Breed lives in Arlington. And then we'll have some lunch. Back over here. You guys look great. Thank you for coming.
So to confirm, we have 12 minutes, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to use my.
Yeah, we're going to go live about 11. Chanting. Woo! Don't lock your knees. Knee bend. Stay nice and smooth. Get your wiggles out. Wiggles out. Look up behind. Yeah? Where do you want me to put them? Okay. If there's a poster on the ground, if you can pick it up and I'll take it from you if you don't have one already. That'd be awesome. Thank Oh, thank you. You guys are okay under this, so it's not too much. So across the street where the retail entrance sign is, there's a shop, like directly, like, remember that O? We have a sign that says shop. Yeah, those are there about 1,000. What? Different kitties. Yeah, you'll see. Sorry, I'm so much add Jenny Craig, and if you get it underwear.
He will, I think I
That's good. That's good. Do you have more of those?
Yeah.
Mindy, you can stop. Mindy, you can stop.
Do you want me to help you with those? Yeah. Anyone wants another sign? Anyone want a second sign for their other hand? Yeah. I'll take it. Can you look at me? Look here.
Hey, Shane. You want to stand right around here? Yep. And tell me where you first. After the Kristen will go, I'll go.
You can put you right there.
Everyone who's holding the big union letter signs, you can take one step to your right.
To your right?
To their right, my left.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. All of you.
Yep.
Oh, you've got the eye has got
Right there's good. All right, we're good. You guys in front of the end, you can lower your boat now. Just lower your boat. Bring your boat down. Let's go. Daniel, you're not in. You can stand there. That's fine. Stand back there. Yeah. Roll. Just come up and you're in there.
Is it better if I
Well, when you guys speak, just walk up to the mic. So you'll see him walk right to the mic, okay? Right here. Is that okay? Here. Hey guys, in about a minute, I'm going to ask everybody to put your signs down. Up there. You see the guy with the red hat? 1 minute or less. All right, everybody, bring your signs down for a second. Go ahead. Stand for a second. For a little while.
I think you said down for a second. Something about we're looking at the guys outside.
Am I the guy in the red hat?
No, up there.
Mic check. Can you hear me?
Put your signs down for 1 minute because we're trying to get another picture.
Here? 1, 2, 3. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Mic check. For the live stream. We're good? Okay.
All right, you guys ready?
Do you want to stand over here? To be in the... Yeah.
What's disgusting?
Union busting!
What's disgusting?
Union busting!
What's disgusting?
Union busting!
What do we want?
Now! What do we want? When do we want it?
Now!
What do we...
Union busting! Union busting!
Do you want to explain?
All right. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We've got a lot of great partners. We've got our Revolution members from across the Eastern Seaboard. We got members from New Jersey. We've got members from Maryland. Our Revolution Virginia's in the house. And our national team is here. Want to thank our members of CWA, UAW, the postal workers, and so many more. Thank you, everybody, for coming out here on Saturday. We appreciate you. And want to get it going with our chants. When I say, what do we want? You say the PRO Act. What do we want?
PRO Act!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
PRO Act!
When do we want it?
Now!
Also, you'll notice this nondescript, boring brown building behind us of glass and metal is actually an Amazon-leased building. Amazon loves to union bust. So, when I say, what's disgusting, you say union busting. What's disgusting?
Union busting!
What's disgusting?
Union busting!
You guys are beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to introduce our executive director, Joseph Gavargi. Thank you.
Woo! When we organize! When we organize! When we organize! Brothers and sisters, we are here today outside the global headquarters of Amazon, the new headquarters in our nation's capital. And it's not just the headquarters of Amazon, it is also the headquarters of global greed. And we are here to say enough is enough. Jeff Bezos is arguably the richest man in the world. He's worth over $187 billion. At the same time, right, his workers, right, even though they make $15 an hour, they are treated like robots. They have to work non-stop around the clock. They get very few breaks. They gotta piss in water bottles, right? They have to work under unsafe conditions. And we're here to say to Jeff Bezos and to Amazon that this behavior of mistreating American workers is unacceptable. And more importantly, we're here to say that all companies that employ low-wage workers, all companies that violate the rights of workers should allow their workers to organize and have a voice on the job. And what we are here today to do is to call on Mark Warner, the United States Senator from Amazon. The United States Senator from Virginia to sign on to a bill called the Protect the Right to Organize bill. Over the last decade, workers from Amazon, workers from Walmart, workers from McDonald's have gone on strike for 15 and a union for over a decade. But here's the fundamental problem, right? Even though workers, thousands of workers, have hit the streets to demand change from their elected leaders, Democrats have yet to make it easier for workers to organize. Is that okay with you? No! When Barack Obama and Joe Biden were in the White House, they had a chance to pass labor law reform legislation. We had a majority in the House, we had a majority in the Senate, and we had the White House, and they failed to act. Brothers and sisters, we're in that same situation right now. We have a president in the White House who supports the Protect the Right of Workers to Organize bill. We have a majority in the U.S. House that has passed this bill. But here's the problem. We have 3 Democrats in the U.S. Senate, including Mark Warner, who have yet to sign on to this bill and stand on the side of workers. Shame. That is unacceptable. Any Democrat that refuses to stand with labor is not a Democrat. Are you with me? Any Democrat that refuses to stand with unions should join the Republican Party, because that is the party of corporate greed. The Democratic Party is the party of empowering workers. And we're here to say to Senator Warner, it is time for you to pick a side. You can either pick the side of Amazon and corporate greed, or you can pick the side of America's workers. And we want you to stand on the side of the workers, because we have a very clear message. What's disgusting? Union busting! What's disgusting? Union busting! What's disgusting? Union busting! So right now, I want to bring up a key union leader in our country, Shane Larson. Shane is one of the top leaders at the Communication Workers of America, and CWA has been on the forefront of the fight to pass the Protect the Right of Workers to Organize bill. Shane Larson, woo!
Thanks.
Welcome, brother. When we organize,
We win!
When we organize,
We win!
When we organize,
We win! Thank you, everyone. Thank you. It's so humbling to be here representing the 500,000 members of the Communications Workers of America. And let me just say how awesome it is to be here in person with so many colleagues and friends and family and brothers and sisters from the labor movement and our revolution. Thank you for kicking ass time and time again, RF. It's so great to be here in person, and especially as we're coming out of this pandemic, we're gathering again together, and we're going to be taking to the streets to make sure that we pass the PRO Act. As we're coming out of this pandemic, we've learned some very, very important lessons during this pandemic. Some very important lessons. And one of those is that workers' voices matter. Workers' voices matter. Workers' voices matter. One of those things is workers Our country has recognized how critical frontline low-wage workers are. In fact, over the last year, we've all started to use the term essential workers, the people who get us our groceries, the people who make sure that our internet is running so we can be connected to society, the people who work in the hospitals. These are frontline workers who struggle to pay the bills each and every day. And we know that when those workers have a voice on the job, we are all, as a society, better off. As we come out of this pandemic, it's been shown that the unionized long-term nursing care facilities have lower death rates because the workers are unionized. The nurses in our hospitals who were fighting for PPE at the beginning of this pandemic, what they were fighting for to protect themselves benefits all of us as a society. So as we come out of this pandemic, it is important that we embrace that lesson and move forward to make sure that all workers have the voice and the power on the job, and that we as a society listen to them. Unfortunately, today, those workers are still bearing the brunt of this pandemic. The United States Congress failed to pass $15 an hour, a living wage. That's wrong. That proves that they are not listening to the frontline essential workers. But who is coming out ahead from this pandemic? The big CEOs and corporations like Amazon are making more money now today than before the pandemic. We just learned last week that they're paying nothing in taxes. Corporations are paying nothing in taxes. These CEOs who have profited off the pandemic and those frontline essential workers have come out further and further ahead. So we've learned that frontline workers need a voice on the job. And if we are going to learn those lessons from the pandemic and truly build back better. Now here's a question. Is build back better just a cheap political slogan, or does it mean something? We have to make it mean something. And if we want it to mean something, then we need to pass the PRO Act to give workers power, because workers need the power. Our labor laws have been destroyed over the last 80 years by the big corporations like Amazon, who can willingly, knowingly, and proudly break the law with no repercussions whatsoever. That's why we need the PRO Act. We will hold them accountable for breaking the law. We will go after the CEOs themselves to hold them accountable for breaking the law. So, my friends, who gets it? Who understands that we need the PRO Act? You get it, right? What do we need?
The PRO Act!
When do we need it?
Now!
So who else gets it? President Biden gets it. President Biden called for the PRO Act in his joint session of Congress. Joe Biden is proving that it's not just words. He has called for it time and time again, demanded it, has put the PRO Act in the infrastructure proposals, has created a task force to focus on creating more union density here in the country. Who else gets it? Every Democrat but one in the United States House of Representatives gets it. You know who else gets it in the House of Representatives? A handful of Republicans. In an era when bipartisanship, when the Republicans have become so extreme and a tool of the far right and the corporations, even Republicans in the House of Representatives understand that we get the PRO Act. Who else gets it? 47 U.S. senators, including, by the way, my friends, Joe Manchin from West Virginia, who is a co-sponsor of the PRO Act, okay? Who seems to not get it? Mark Warner. Mark Warner on the PRO Act is to the right of to the right of Joe Manchin, really very far to the right of Bernie Sanders. But he's to the right of Mark Warner on the PRO Act. He's to the right of a group of House Republicans. So we need to make it clear to Mark Warner, who does he stand with? It's this simple. Does he stand with us, the workers? With us, the people? Does he really want to build back better with making workers have the power they need? Or does he stand with the corporation and the billionaires that help occupy this building behind us? Does he stand with Amazon and their army of million-dollar lobbyists and the corporate campaign contributions? Or does he stand with workers, and does he want to build back better? So brothers and sisters, friends, family, let's send a message to Mark Warner to pass the PRO Act. What do we want?
PRO Act!
When do we need it?
Now!
What do we want?
PRO Act!
When do we need it?
Now!
Thank you, everyone.
Want? PRO Act! When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
PRO Act!
When do we want it?
Now! Thank you. All right, let's give a shout out to our gig workers, to our Uber and Lyft drivers, to all of our Instacart delivery personnel. Those people got a lot of us through the pandemic. I want to call up our friends Daniel Russell and Janae Wallace. Getting a little feedback. Hold off here. What do we want? When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
PRO Act!
When do we want it?
Now!
All right, thanks. So Daniel has been working for Uber and Lyft, and he is a proud member that is of an organization called Rideshare Drivers United. There are over 20,000 members, and they are in the process of starting a union, and the PRO Act would help that. Daniel, please tell us about how the PRO Act would further help people in the new economy. And I'll remind everyone that this is the gig workers is the reason that Mark Warner gives for why he does not support the PRO Act. He makes claims that it would hurt our gig workers. So let's hear if that's true or false. Thank you.
False is the answer, just so you know. Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel Russell, and I'll go without the mic for right now since we seem to be having problems, and I'll just enunciate as best as I can. I'm very happy to be here to come out in support of the PRO Act. I grew up in Maryland, but I've been in California for a while now. This is my daughter, Zora. We are here to encourage our U.S. senators to pass the PRO Act now because it is good for all workers. I've been working for 4 years as a full-time driver for Uber and Lyft and Uber Eats, and I can tell you I am very familiar with the way that they underpay their labor and underpay us drivers and exploit us. And that is why we need the PRO Act so that we can organize and get our rights and fair pay. I'm also a member of Rideshare Drivers United. We can't even call ourselves a union right now. With the PRO Act, we can call ourselves a union and stand up for our rights. That is the number one reason that we need the PRO Act is because of the misclassification of us as independent contractors.
That's right.
I am not an independent contractor. I'm not paid enough to be an independent contractor. I'm underpaid.
Shame.
I do not get paid enough. I do not set my own rates. I do not negotiate my own contracts. We need a union for drivers to negotiate their own contracts. There's not even a driver or an organization sitting at the table setting our rates. Uber and Lyft pay us what they want. And they send us our contracts to the driver's seat of our car where we got to sign off before going on shift. That's right. And when I first started, they do bait and switch. They pay us more and then they decrease our rates over time. When I first started driving, I was making over $1 per mile. That's now down to 63 cents, and in some cases even lower. The bonuses I used to be offered, I now have to work longer hours for less money. The first year working, it was okay. By year 3 and 4, I was just driving myself into debt. The thing is, in California, we already won our rights with the passage of Assembly Bill 5. Uber and Lyft refused to follow that law, refused to pay us fairly, and instead spent $200 million on their own law and did deceptive advertising on the internet and on TV, lying to voters and drivers about what they were offering. Well, I can tell you now, we live under the regime of Prop 22 in California, and we are not better paid. We are still sliding down the scale. And in fact, grocery stores have used Prop 22 to cut long-standing employees who had benefits and had a regular job and replace them with Instacart workers. This is how these tech companies threaten all labor. They will continue to dip their hands into the pockets of workers and take money from us. We have to put a stop to them. We have to ask our politicians to stop taking their money and listen to us, the workers and the voters. The PRO Act allows us not only the opportunity to unionize, but to protect our right to strike. We are pissed off as drivers, and it's come the time for a work stoppage and to strike, and it is important that we are protected when we do that. As independent contractors, we are not. They can fire me for standing up for my rights, and that is not okay. That is why we need to ask Senator Warner, Senator Sinema, and the entire U.S. Senate to stand up for all workers, gig workers, nurses, everything, and pass the PRO Act now. Thank you.
What do we want?
PRO Act!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
PRO Act!
When do we want it? Now!
Ladies, gentlemen, kids, our democracy is at stake. Wake up! Wake up! We are not winning, but we're going to win if we stick together. What are we doing? Mark Warner takes money from Amazon. Why? We need to meet with him. We need to talk to him. We need to discuss with him. I want to know why you continue to take money from dark money from big corporations and do what they want. We are the people. We put you here, and we can take you out. We can vote you out. This PRO Act is important. It is important for every working American in the United States. What are we going to do? When you go to the voting booth, you vote progressive. I'm talking about progressive, progressive, progressive. You ask yourself, what has this president done to move us forward? If they don't move us forward, don't vote for them.
That's right.
Vote progressive. Progressive. That's what we're headed for. The PRO Act is crucial. He's right. I was a Lyft driver. I was an Uber driver. Did I make enough money? No. They making billions of dollars. Never gave us stock options whatsoever. We must win. When we vote progressive, 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 we win. Not about this conservative. When we vote progressive, I'm talking about progressive. If you look at yourself and you voted in Virginia for the same damn people, you are not progressive. We are at stake. PRO Act, PRO Act, PRO Act now. PRO Act, PRO Act, PRO Act now. PRO Act, PRO Act, PRO Act now. Thank you.
What's disgusting? What's disgusting? What's disgusting? So I want to say thank you to gig workers for standing up. And just to put this in context, right, gig workers are the symbol of the new low-wage economy. When labor law was first passed in the 1930s, Roosevelt, Democrats came together and said, you know what? To be an employee means you get minimum wages. To be an employee means that you get rights to basic health care, health and safety, and you get the right to organize. There was a time back in the 30s and the 1940s when Democrats made sure workers had fundamental rights. What the gig economy is basically doing is it's carving out a loophole around regular work, right? No longer do gig workers, no longer do we have regular jobs, we have gig jobs. Gig workers don't have a right to a minimum wage. Is that okay with you? No. Gig workers don't have fundamental protections of health and safety. Is that okay with you? No. Gig workers don't have the right to organize. Is that okay with you? No. At the same time, right, gig workers are on their way to being the dominant group of workers in America. The loophole, this gig worker loophole, is being used by Amazon, by Uber, by Lyft to undermine good regular jobs in the United States. And that's what we are here to stop. Senator Warner wants to keep the gig economy going strong. He wants to make sure that all of us get turned into gig workers. Is that okay with you? No. Do you want to be a gig worker? No. The only way that we can save ourselves is by calling on Senator Warner to pass the PRO Act. And one of the leaders in that effort is Jenny Diamond. Jenny is the leader of the Northern Virginia Labor Federation. She is a longtime union organizer. She is a labor lawyer, and she has been leading the effort to hold Mark Warner accountable. Every Wednesday, she and others have been going to Mark Warner's home to demand that he sign on to the PRO Act. Give it up for Sister Jenny Diamond.
Brothers and sisters, who has the power? What kind of power? That's right. And so we are at a hinge moment in history. This is a pivotal moment in history for our nation. For 40 years, workers' wages have stagnated and declined. For 40 years, elites, corporate executives, CEOs, hedge funds have garnered more and more of the wealth of this country to the point now where we have gone back 100 years and we have now become a Gilded Age plutocracy. We are no longer a democracy. We have so much income inequality and so much racial inequity that's going on now that we have to take strong, dramatic, and bold action. And I can tell you this, that what we have to do is we do have to focus and prioritize on the right of workers to have unions. Because the one sure way that we will be able to reverse income inequity, wealth inequity, racial inequity is to give workers power. Workers the power to bargain, to sit at the table. And we know that without unions, and unions are now in Virginia, we are only 4% of the workforce. And in the United States as a whole, 6% of private sector workers have the right to bargain. And this comes down from where we used to be, which is 35% of the workforce, back when we had a middle class. So right now we are in crisis. As Sister Janae said, we are in a moment of crisis. And this is a hinge moment of history where we must take collective action. Now, we have tried over the past 40 years, when there has been a Democratic president and a Democratic Congress, to get labor law reform so that workers are no longer fired and threatened and intimidated when they try to organize. And under President Carter and under President Clinton and under President Obama, we have failed to convince the Democratic majority to support workers' rights to have collective bargaining and to have unions. Now we have President Biden, who is arguably the most pro-union president from the words he has spoken and from his priorities since Franklin Roosevelt. However, we have a problem, and that problem is primarily our Senator Warner. He has put a stake in the ground. He has planted a flag. He is refusing to go along with the vast majority, with all of the Democrats in Congress in Virginia and with Senator Kaine, and he has said, I will not support this act. I will not sign on to the PRO Act, which is frustrating. However, I want to thank everybody. I want to mention Michelle Woolley and her coalition for to repeal right to work. She has organized a group that have gone out to the park in Alexandria every Wednesday and kept the visibility, kept the message alive, not allow the subject to be changed from worker rights. And so I have confidence that eventually Senator Warner will decide that he wants to join with the rest of the caucus with Senator Biden, with President Biden, etc. However, I want to make one really important point, and that is that we are not asking Senator Warner permission to form unions. We do not need a law. We do not need legislation. We do not need the permission of senators or congresspeople or members of the General Assembly in Virginia to give us our power to form unions. Because who has the power?
We have the power.
What kind of power?
Union power.
So what we need to do right now, we need to push for the PRO Act. We need to push for the repeal of right to work in Virginia. And most importantly of all, we have to remember that we have the power. We must organize. We must go into our workplaces. We must join unions. We must form unions. And we must fight to have unions, whether they give us permission or not. That is our right. Our power comes from our solidarity. So solidarity forever.
Give it up for Jenny Diamond and the Virginia Federation of Labor. They have been on the front lines holding Mark Warner's feet to the fire. I want to pick up on a key point that Jenny made. The best way to address income inequality in this country is by empowering workers to form unions. There is one reason that corporate America doesn't want workers to organize. And what is that reason? Greed. That's right. It is fundamentally about the bottom line. Because companies like Amazon understand that when workers come together, they have more power than if they act alone. And that's what Jeff Bezos is afraid of. That's what Republicans are afraid of. They are afraid of we the people coming together and acting as one. They don't want us to have power. And as a result, income inequality is going up. Over the last 40 years, right-wing Republicans and Democrats have joined forces to gut the American labor movement. There was a point where a majority of workers in America had union power. There was a point when 35% of workers in the private sector economy were in unions. Today, it's less than 6%. And the one thing I want to say about that is it's all by design. Republicans and some Democrats, right, are trying to get that number as small as possible. And there's no better example of where declining union strength matters than West Virginia. West Virginia used to be a stronghold of the American labor movement. West Virginia used to be a progressive state when the labor movement was strong. But now the labor movement has gotten weaker and weaker, and Republicans are trying to kill the labor movement. But I want to bring up a West Virginian, a teacher who is fighting to make sure workers in West Virginia and workers all around the United States enjoy the right to organize. Welcome, Jenny Craig.
Thank you. I'm going to try to talk loud. Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. My name is Jenny Craig, and I'm an organizer in West Virginia. And as Joseph said, I'm also a teacher. And we recognized in 2018 the true strength and power of a union. I'm also a proud NEA, National Education Association union member. And the president of my local in my city. And we recognized in 2018 the strength and the power in a union when we went on a statewide teacher strike for competitive wages and for affordable health care. And then again in 2019 when we went on strike again against the privatization movement that is gutting our public schools across the country. But decades of anti-union legislation in West Virginia, such as the so-called right-to-work legislation and the repeal of the prevailing wage, and just recently this year, an attack on public workers with the so-called Paycheck Protection Act that takes our autonomy, our control over our own paycheck away from us from deducting our union dues. And why is this done? Corporate greed.
That's right.
So we know why the PRO Act is so important. And as Joseph said, we used to be the bastion of unionism. From the mine wars in West Virginia to Walter Reuther and the UAW, who was born in my hometown in Wheeling. And we need to get back to that. So we are here saying, Senator Warner, step up, lead us forward, or we will vote you out. Thank you.
Give it up for Jenny Craig, and give it up for America's union teachers who've been going out on strike to stand up for our communities, to stand up for our kids. Earlier, Shane talked about who was with the labor movement. Joe Biden has said he's with the labor movement. A majority of U.S. representatives in the House have said that they are with the labor movement. And you know who else is with the labor movement? God! Our next speaker, that's right, our next speaker is here on behalf of God. No, Clayton Sinai is an activist, a union leader, and he is also the leader of the Catholic Labor Solidarity Network, the Roman Catholic Church. And I say this as someone who went to Catholic schools. The Roman Catholic Church has a long history of social teaching that says that workers should join unions, that workers' human dignity is fully realized when they come together with other human beings. And with that, I want to give it up for Clayton Sinai. Welcome, brother.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm Clayton Sinai from the Catholic Labor Network, and I'm here on behalf of 5,000 Catholic Union activists to say that people of faith are with the working families of America and want to see the PRO Act passed. Now, as Joe mentioned, we've got a long tradition in the Catholic Church of supporting the right to organize. It goes all the way back to 1891, when Pope Leo XIII first made it part of Catholic social teaching that the Catholic Church recognizes the right of workers to form unions and, in fact, urged them to form unions in order to seek justice. That's why I'm here today. Now, we've had 130 years now since that time to get it right, and we're still working on it, it seems like. We gave a call a couple of weeks ago to Mark Warner's team. The Catholic Labor Network called them up and said, why aren't you supporting the PRO Act? Why aren't you signing on as an endorser? And we were told that, well, they're concerned about the gig workers, that the gig workers may lose some of their rights. And we told them the gig workers have no rights. No one needs unions more than the gig workers, and we heard from them here earlier today, just a few minutes ago, that the gig workers are here for the PRO Act, and all workers need the PRO Act. So what do we want? When do we want it? Now. What do we want? PRO Act. When do we want it? Now. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much. Thank you. All right, I'm going to call up Don Slayman now, and Don is one of the political director for IBEW, one of our great union partners. So Don is a veteran of our revolution rallies in support of repealing the right to work in Virginia and in support of the PRO Act. And we really appreciate that our union partners show up for progressive values. And that's why we are showing up today. Thank you, Don, for showing up now.
Thank you. And good morning. How's everyone today? Wonderful. I'm sorry I'm a little late. I was just testifying over the Arlington County Supervisors Board meeting where they just approved collective bargaining for public employees. I wish you could have been there to hear those supervisors speak about trade unionism. It's truly amazing. I left Annandale 40 years ago to follow my trade union path. I worked in 39 states, 44 countries for the trade union movement. And I'm so proud that I am here in Arlington where we are today. I was amazed at the knowledge and the passion and for the trade unions that those supervisors had, and also for our issue, prevailing wage. And you know, when Amazon came here, they made Amazon use DC prevailing wage rates for the construction of their headquarters. That was huge. They went above and beyond. The prevailing wage for some of the crafts in Arlington is so dominated by gig workers, so dominated by exploited workers who are all contracted out, 1099. They get at the end of the year, a huge tax bill. They get no health care. They get no workers' comp. They get no unemployment. They get cheated on their overtime. And these county supervisors, they realize the decimation of the market is not real, that they apply DC wages to those people. That's amazing. In the state of Virginia, and where did this bill come from? Bobby Scott, the PRO Act, from the state of Virginia. And the nerve for our senator not to listen to the President of the United States and to Bobby Scott. This is such a no-brainer. When Truman vetoed this, I don't know, you do the math, in 47, we're finally getting it back. We've made many attempts to do labor law reform. They were in 78, and striker replacement, and Employee Free Choice Act. None of those touched. None of those even came close to doing what this measure does, what the PRO Act does. We will have the right to societist picketing. We will have the right. We'll eliminate right to work states. We'll have the. We need to balance the power of workers and corporations in this country. Not only do we feel the income inequality, but damn, look at the insurrection as a direct result of union density being less today than it was when the Wagner Act was passed in 1935.
That's right.
There's only one way to address income inequality. There's only one way that we can all grow together. There's only one way we can fix the problems of our democracy in this country, and that is to rebalance the power between workers and corporations. This act does that, and how dare anybody stand in the way? Listen to President Joe Biden and pass the PRO Act today. Thank you very much.
What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? All right, thanks so much. I want to talk to our audience on Facebook and YouTube right now. If you are digging what is going down here in Arlington, if you support our revolution, please become a member. And you can go to ourrev.us/2021 member, please, because all these signs are not free. And feeding these people, these people are beautiful and they deserve lunch today. So please contribute if you can. I'm calling up Aaron Brown right now, and Aaron is a postal service facility maintenance technician. Thank you. We love the postal service, right? That's right. All right. He's also on the rank and file bargaining team. So he works with getting the right contracts for our postal workers and treating them right. Thank you, Aaron, for being with us. Thank you to the Postal Union for being with our postal workers.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank Our Revolution for being on the forefront of people initiatives for the last couple of years. They've really taken the balance of power away from the ruling class, the 1%, and put it back towards the people. This is a very, very magnificent accomplishment. Said I'm here as a representative of the 200,000 plus member American Postal Workers Union in support of the PRO Act. The PRO Act is the most significant piece of labor legislation that's been through Congress since the National Labor Relations Act of 1935.
That's right.
Yes. And we know once the NLRA was first passed, union density increased incredibly. There was a time in our history where union density was 30% of the workers. Right now, we're at 10%. The APWU and our members supports union workers' right to organize because we understand workers that have unions have better wages. We understand workers that have unions have better benefits. And of course, we understand workers who have unions have better safety conditions in the workplace. This past year during the pandemic, there's no better situation to show how much the union difference in the workplace of safety means. To give you a very, very important example of this, as far as the APWU, we negotiated with postal leadership memorandums, safety protocols, a bunch of standards to keep workers safe in the workplace. Those standards, those memorandums undoubtedly had an effect on the workers at the Postal Service. When we contrast the unionized postal workers with the workers at the Tyson's Corporation in Waterloo, Iowa. I know y'all heard about this, you right? Yeah. Workers in Waterloo, Iowa were non-unionized, were forced to come to work in very unsafe conditions. It was so bad that out of 2,800 workers that worked in this one meat processing plant in Waterloo, Iowa, 1,000 of these workers contracted COVID-19. To make this situation monstrously worse, managers in this facility were placing wages on what workers would get COVID-19. That is the union difference. When you have a union, you can stand up, you can voice your opinions. You are protected, safety. As I said, union popularity and union density. Across this country, union popularity is at about 60%. People love unions across this country. So when you think about that, and you think about the fact that only 10% of workers across this country are actually unionized, that's an incredible discrepancy. Why is that? Because of the obstacles of forming unions. There's so many laws from Taft-Hartley on that made it incredibly hard for unions to form. You heard our rideshare sisters and brothers talk this morning about, hey, I can't organize because I'm not an employee of my company. I'm an independent contractor. That's a bunch of bull. That's just a way. Thank you, Mayor. That's just a way to prevent workers from organizing and showing the true power of workers. I really support the PRO Act. It is a good piece of legislation. Other areas of PRO Act really makes improvements. The right to strike. Right now, workers can be fired if they strike. When you stand up on your job and ask for better pay, better wages, your employer can let you go. Is that fair? No. You're damn right it's not fair. So the PRO Act will change that. Let's talk about last year's election. Last year, Labor was at the forefront of changing the presidency, keeping the House, and changing the Senate. And Labor feels that we are owed from all of these places. And the one thing that we are owed, the one thing we fought for last year during the election was workers' right to organize. So we insist that the U.S. Senate pass the PRO Act so President Biden, who has already supported this piece of legislation, can sign it and make everything better for workers in this country. Thank you.
What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? Give it up for the American Postal Workers. Give it up for Ryan Brown. Woo! Right now, I want to bring up a worker who actually still does cook and clean for Mark Warner. This is a worker who works at the United States Senate. She's in food service. And every day she goes in and serves some of the richest and most powerful people on earth. Yet, the workers at the Senate, even though they've been going out on strike for 5 years, have yet to get a union. And when this worker, her name is Luz Viataro, when she first went on strike, I get why they didn't get the union. It was because Republicans actually controlled the Senate at that moment. But right now, Democrats control the Senate, and they could right now make sure that Luz and her co-workers enjoy the fundamental right to organize. And I want to bring up one more thing about Luz and about the effort at the U.S. Senate. When we struck workers to fight for 15, when workers walked out of the U.S. Capitol, Senator Bernie Sanders came to the picket line. Elizabeth Warren came to the picket line. Cory Booker came to the picket line. There were very few Democratic senators who did not come and stand in solidarity with the people who cook and clean for them. One of them was Mark Warner. These are his constituents, and it is absolutely disgusting that he can turn away from the voice of those who serve him. Right now, we're going to bring up Luz. Give it up for Luz and other Senate workers who've been going on strike. And my colleague Paco's going to translate. Woo!
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Luz Villatoro. Yo trabajo en la cafetería del Senado, la cafetería de los senadores.
Good afternoon. My name is Luz Villatoro, and I work at the U.S. Senate cafeteria, where senators come to eat every day.
Muchas veces subimos a la oficina del senador Warner y nunca nos quiso atender.
So several times as we went on strike, we asked for meetings and went up to Senator Warner's office, but he never wanted to meet with us.
Pero salimos varias veces a huelga y logramos ganar un sueldo digno.
So several times we went out on strike and we were able to win a better wage from the U.S. Senate. ¿Qué te dijo el senador Warner? ¿Qué te dijo? ¿Se ha reunido con ustedes?
No, nunca nos quiso escuchar.
So yeah, Senator Warner never wanted to meet with us, right? And so, we kept fighting. We won a higher wage. ¿Qué mensaje tienes para el senador?
Pues nosotros queremos que nos apoye, como
Yeah.
el senador Sanders, que siempre ha apoyado siempre que hemos andado en las huelgas.
And we want Senator Warner to support us just like Senator Sanders has every time we've gone on strike. Sí, necesitamos el PRO Act, ¿no?
Sí, necesitamos el PRO Act.
And we need the PRO Act. Let's go.
PRO Act, PRO Act.
What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? Right now, I want to bring up one of our important allies in this fight right here in Virginia. His name is Matt Royer. He is the head of the Virginia Justice Democrats, and he's also a leader in the Young Democrats of Virginia. Give it up for Matt Royer. Woo!
Good afternoon, folks, brothers and sisters. My name is Matt Royer. I am the co-chair, the Virginia Justice Democrats, the president of the Arlington Young Democrats, and a proud union member. And a few days ago, I lost an election. I don't know if you saw this, but progressives got pretty beaten up here in Virginia on Tuesday. Am I upset about that? Of course I am. I put a lot of heart and soul into that campaign that I worked on. Am I confused about it? Not in the slightest. Because we stood up for the issues that we are here for today, right now. And we all backed the same candidates up and down the ballot. We were the only campaigns to talk about repealing the so-called right-to-work laws here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We stood up to the corporate interests, saying we wouldn't buy into their agenda, and we stood on the side of working families in Virginia. There were 11 delegates who stood with Lee Carter to try to force a vote on repealing right-to-work, and I worked for one of them. But Virginia politics is a cruel and unrelenting mistress. And we all paid the price for it. But you know what? I would rather lose 1,000 times while holding on to my morals and convictions and fighting for what I believe in than to sell out once and win. And it wasn't for a lack of trying. We worked day in and day out for candidates up and down the ballot. We got some wins. However, I think the losses outweigh what we gained. And what we ended up with statewide was the same old situation that we've had for decades here in Virginia. And why is that? Lack of education on the issues that matter both to the progressive movement and deeply affect everyday Virginians. We could continue to yell at ourselves internally until we're blue in the face in our own silos, but we cannot rely on small spurts of energy every other year to get what we want, and we just can't do that. You all here today did the first part and the hard part, which is showing up. Now, what I'm asking you all to do is to organize your communities. Don't agonize, organize. We are beaten down right now, but we are not broken. Organize your neighbors, your families, your friends. Show them why this is important. Show them why they need to contact Senator Warner and tell him this is important. Inform them on the issues of the PRO Act, because the more people that don't know, the more likely that they won't pay attention. And if you are not outraged at this point, you are really not paying attention. Don't agonize, organize. Organized people will always beat organized money, and that is a fact. We cannot assume. Assuming that people see what is a problem doesn't work. That's what we saw on Tuesday. We ran in our own lanes trying to get stuff done. We split votes and resources, and we fired at ourselves, and for what? The old guard thrives on a divided progressive movement, and that's why they continue to reign. And that is why we haven't been able to pass the progressive legislation that we want to pass on the state level or the federal level. Don't agonize, organize. So come together on this, and we will turn that tide. Senator Warner wants to move on and change the subject. Don't let him. Stay the course. Show that working people have the power to change the public narrative around these issues and hold our elected officials accountable. Brothers, sisters, siblings, take the lessons from this past week. Learn from them. Regroup, because there are too many people out there who are tired, overworked, and underpaid, and we owe it to them to unite and deliver. Let's unite and finally pass the PRO Act. Let's unite and finally repeal the so-called right-to-work laws here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Let's unite and stand up for our union brothers and sisters and siblings to deliver for our working families. Because the people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, folks. We're going to make a quick phone call right now. We've talked to Senator Warner over the phone, left him a lot of messages, but I think from 150 people, 200 people, it might sound a little better. So if you're at home, take out your phone and you can call with us. The number is 202-224-2023. Since it's the weekend, we'll just hit number 1 and leave him a message. But go ahead and talk to a real person next time. What's the number? The number is 202-224-2023. We have an opinion. It's apparently important to him. Senator Warner, this is Kristen Hoffman from Our Revolution, Virginia. I am standing outside one of the Amazon headquarters buildings, and we have a message for you. I'm standing with approximately 200 of your constituents. What do we want? More! When do we want it? Now! You've heard the people, sir. Please deliver. All right, that's a simple action. You can call him every day. Leave a message. Talk to his employees. Make sure that they understand that what the people want is respect and dignity for our employees. I'm calling up Andrew Kwan now. He is one of our partners from Democratic Socialists of America. He's one of the co-chairs of the NOVA branch of Metro DC DSA. His focusing is on tenant organizing, also working for Medicare for All resolutions in local government councils, and we really value his partnership. One thing that we can be assured of, when we heard about the Amazon deal, rents went up immediately. So let's hear from Andrew on the work that he is doing and that we can all do together.
Good morning, everybody. All right, my name's Andrew, and I am the co-chair for the Northern Virginia branch of the Metro DC DSA. And I am here today to stand in solidarity with the workers of Virginia and to demand that Mark Warner co-sponsor the PRO Act. So, before I want to just explain, as a socialist, one of my absolute core fundamental beliefs is that it is the workers, not the bosses, not the owners, that make this economy work and function. We serve the food to the people. We pave the streets. We teach people's children. We care for the elderly. We drive the trucks that deliver the goods and products to the warehouses where other people work that Amazon owns. And we even build the buildings that Amazon leases to continue to displace the people of Northern Virginia. And yet, in this country, the United States, a country that prides itself on being a bastion of freedom, we are forced to accept the absolute tyranny in the one place where we spend most of our working days, the workplace. Our bosses steal our wages. They cut our hours, and they can terminate us at will. And do we have a say in any of that? No! I find that completely unacceptable. I find it even more unacceptable for us here in the Commonwealth. Virginia continues to rank dead last for workers' rights in the United States. This is the heart of the former Confederacy. We have continued to have so-called right-to-work laws that limit our ability to organize and even fewer worker protections than any other state. And when given the chance, when the Democrats took power in the state legislature, when we took the governorship, did we take that chance to abolish right to work? Did we take that chance to improve the lives of workers? No. What did we do? Instead, we decided that we were going to give billions of dollars in tax breaks to Amazon to bring them here to Northern Virginia. Amazon, a company that ruthlessly crushes all unionization attempts, a company that thinks that it can track every movement of its workers in the warehouses, that doesn't give anyone bathroom breaks, and that thinks that employee wellness is giving them little meditation booths. And not only that, Amazon coming here, it's just going to continue to profit off of its ties to the national security state. It makes millions by providing cloud services to the Pentagon. It makes even more millions by providing facial recognition technology to ICE, which ICE then uses to terrorize and deport our neighbors. And what's worse, Amazon coming here will just continue to accelerate the destructive process that we all know as gentrification. Right now, I just want to tell you right now, there are 2,300 more people organizing in Alexandria, fighting their landlord to stay in their homes because the landlord wants to displace them so it can do some nice little renovations and jack up the rent so that people, working people, can no longer find it affordable to live here anymore. The people of Virginia can't stop any of these abuses, either the ones that Amazon inflicts on its workers or the other ones that it inflicts by enabling the national security state and real estate developers. That is, unless we organize. And the PRO Act would make it so much easier for us as workers to organize. It'd abolish right to work. It would make the tactics that Amazon uses to bust unions illegal. But Mark Warner would rather take their money than listen to his corporate donors than to the people. That is, unless we make him. Mark Warner, Amazon may have the money, but we have the people. And the people demand the right to organize.
That's right.
Right now, DSA has made over 1 million calls across the country to people telling them to call their senators, including Mark Warner, and telling them to demand that we pass the PRO Act. I am asking, and I am here today on behalf of DSA, and asking everyone here to call someone they know, talk to folks in their communities, and let them know that why the PRO Act is important. To let them know, to talk to Mark Warner and let him know that this is what we demand, not what we want, what we demand. Workers in this country need the right to organize. Workers in this country demand better wages, better benefits, and working conditions. Workers, the ones that have allowed Jeff Bezos to accrue billions off of the backs of their labor, deserve democracy in the workplace. We will not stop this fight until we get the PRO Act. So call Mark Warner's office. Ask everyone you know to call Mark Warner's office, because together, when we organize, we can bring about a more just world for all. So I just have one question. Mark Warner, which side are you on? What do we want? When do we want it? Now! Thanks, everybody.
What's disgusting? What's disgusting? What's disgusting? All right, Jeff Bezos is on his way to space, so we got to get it a little bit louder so you can hear us. What's disgusting? Right now, I want to introduce a couple of workers who work for Amazon. They work at a warehouse in Baltimore. And these workers, just like the Amazon warehouse workers in Bessemer, Alabama, just like tens of thousands of other low-wage warehouse workers are working under unsafe conditions, are organizing against Amazon's corporate greed and against their sophisticated anti-worker union busting campaign. Let's give it up for Jake Burdett and Kiana Fox. Woo!
Hello, I'm Kiana Folk, a current Amazon worker in Baltimore. So, let's see, the closest I've observed in the, observed in difficult use workers. For example, just yesterday talked with one where he works full-time there and he does overtime, but apparently he says that is barely enough. And even though he didn't say the exact number, I guess it doesn't even crack the $20 an hour mark at the very least. Yeah, for all the time he puts in, he deserves to be paid a lot more for all the necessities. All the time he works on his feet. On top of that, on the back of every worker's mind is COVID, because on my app alone, I get notifications every other week about someone catching COVID. Why, even though, sure, PPE, but we're hardly ever able to really social distance, especially when you have to work with boxes that are either too long and or just heavy. So, we deserve to get paid a lot more. Deserve more compensation. So I say PRO Act should be passed right now.
Hey everybody, my name is Jake Burdett and I'm a former Amazon warehouse worker. I worked in an Amazon warehouse in Baltimore during the height of COVID for 8 months from August 2020 to March 2021, and I've seen firsthand how me and my co-workers could have benefited from a union and how desperately we need strong pro-labor legislation like the PRO Act. As Kiana said, during my time at Amazon, we got notifications of our co-workers getting COVID diagnoses on a more than once per week basis, yet they continue to schedule over 200 people on a single shift and allowed people to come to work with temperatures as high as 100.3 degrees. During my last 2 weeks there, a coworker even died from COVID, which he likely caught from working in the warehouse. Despite the great risk me and my coworkers put ourselves in on a daily basis simply by showing up to work, Amazon still opted not to pay us hazard pay for the majority of the pandemic. This is all while Amazon was paying virtually nothing in taxes, was making record profits during the quarantine, and Jeff Bezos was buying super yachts. Surely Amazon and Jeff Bezos would not be able to get away with this crazy exploitation of their workers if we had a union. We all know this, and the Amazon executives across the street from us know this too. We know Amazon fears the idea of their workers unionizing because they know it would hurt their profits. We saw this play out in the recent successful anti-union propaganda campaign waged by Amazon to defeat the historic union drive in Bessemer, Alabama. Amazon pulled out all the stops to defeat the union drive, including fear-mongering about union dues, surveilling employees, and even literally offering workers $2,000 to quit. We even see Amazon's anti-unionization efforts playing out by our very presence here today at Amazon's second corporate headquarters in Arlington, Virginia. As I said, Kiana and I come from Maryland. in 2018, before Amazon had announced they were going to build their second headquarters here in Arlington, many states were engaging in a public bidding war to see who could offer the most in taxpayer giveaways to try to attract Amazon to locate there. At that time, my Republican governor, Larry Hogan, offered a whopping $5 billion in taxpayer money to Amazon to locate in Maryland. So that was $5 billion. Compare that to Virginia's offer to Amazon, which was only $750 million in corporate subsidies. So if Maryland was offering over $4 billion more than Virginia to Amazon, then why did Amazon end up locating in Virginia over Maryland? It's simple. Because of Amazon's notoriously weak labor laws, specifically their anti-worker right-to-work laws. That's how much Amazon values the idea of making sure that their workers can't unionize, that they would give up over $4 billion of free money to make sure that their workers cannot unionize, and they knew that that would actually save them more than $4 billion in the long run. It is exactly for that reason we need to pass the PRO Act. So what is the obstacle preventing us from doing this? A handful of corporate Democrats who've been bought off by Amazon executives, and Senator Mark Warner is at the top of that list. After helping facilitate the sweetheart deal to get Amazon to move here to Arlington at the taxpayers' expense, Senator Warner is rewarded handsomely with tens of thousands of dollars in campaign donations from top Amazon executives. Senator Warner, are you going to continue to side with the corporate interests of Amazon and be one of the 3 Senate Democrats preventing us from having a fair shake? Or are you finally going to do the right thing and stand in support of the PRO Act alongside President Biden, Senator Joe Manchin, the Democratic majority in the House and Senate, and most importantly, the tens of thousands of Amazon workers who work here in Arlington and Virginia, who are your constituents and deserve to have a union? Thank you, everybody.
What do we want? When do we want it?
Now!
Let's tell Amazon what's disgusting?
Union busting!
What's disgusting?
Union busting!
All right, thanks for hanging with us, guys. We've got one final speaker, then we've got a little action to take against this Amazon. So I'm calling on Michelle Woolley right now. She and I have been spending a lot of time together. Every Wednesday, we go to Mark Warner's house. He has a $4.5 million house overlooking a park in the Potomac River in Old Town Alexandria. And many times, we bring him a cake. And Michelle has many talents. Well, professionally, she is working as an attorney and is part of Justice Forward Virginia. She's worked for civil rights and employment rights and fighting for labor all her life. I'd also like you to know that she is behind some very creative themes for our Let Them Eat Cake deliveries that we make to Senator Warner. And I encourage you all to check out the Virginia Coalition to Repeal Right to Work Facebook page so that you can see all of these beautiful creations that we deliver to Senator Warner every Wednesday. You're invited to join us every Wednesday. We've been at this for 12 weeks. Now let's hear from Michelle Woolley. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. So the Coalition to Repeal Right to Work is over 50 organizations that support the repeal of right to work in Virginia. It's a diverse coalition of grassroots activist groups from around the Commonwealth who understand that to make our country stronger for all, we must empower workers and repeal this racist anti-worker law.
Right.
Which is what the PRO Act will do for us nationally, so we don't have to deal with the Virginia Senate.
Right.
So in thinking about this last night, I thought I'd go and look up Senator Warner's financial disclosures, all publicly available information, and just check in on how he's been doing during this pandemic. Unfortunately, he got an extension for his full disclosure, so we won't know more about that until August 15th. Mark your calendars. But here's a little taste of what he's been up to. In March of this year, he made $1 to $5 million from selling some securities, and it looks like he bought those for $250,000 earlier in the pandemic. So we're talking about profit of up over 10 times. In February, he made a couple $100,000 from selling an investment in a petroleum company. And in December, he spent a couple $1 million buying a private equity investment. November, he spent a couple $1 million, or made a couple $1 million off a real estate fund investment. And the list goes on. He is worth over $200 million before the pandemic. I'm sure he's worth a lot more now. And he is standing in the way of working people who have struggled through this pandemic getting any piece of their own power. This makes me very angry as I look around at neighbors who have faced eviction, who have faced loss of health insurance, still have no permanent work after almost 18 months of this. And he's just living high on the hog and giving out excuse after excuse after excuse for not supporting us. I'm part of a generation of people that graduated into a modest recession and then a few years later had my life totally upended by a complete economic meltdown. And he is just out there just doing his millionaire thing and going to just hoard the power for himself and his little rich cronies. And so, what are we going to do about this? We're here today. I know a lot of you have been making phone calls. There's a lot more we can do, and we cannot let up the pressure on him. I've got these postcards with me, our friends at the Teamsters Union. They're already stamped. You just got to sign your name right where you're from on them. But I also want to really make sure all of you are invited to come out and join us every Wednesday morning, 500 South Lee Street in Alexandria, and let Mark Warner know that his constituents, his voters, demand he support working people, and he do it now.
What do we want? When do we want it? Now. What do we want? When do we want it? Now. All right, thank you everybody for joining us online. Please go to the Facebook page. We're going to also follow up with an email so you can join us every Wednesday at Mark Warner's house to continue this pressure. What we're going to do now here in Arlington is two things. First, we're going to pick up these signs because behind us is a very nondescript metal and glass building that is hiding the global greed headquarters of Amazon. You're going to get a piece of painter's tape. You're going to get this sign. You're going to follow our union sign across the street and put this up on that building. Those columns should be decorated so that everybody walking by and going into that building understand that they are contributing to the global greed problem. Then you're going to come back here. We're going to have some lunch and we're going to sign some postcards. What do we want?
PRO-ACT!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
PRO-ACT!
When do we want it? Now!
What do we want?
PRO-ACT! Now! PRO-ACT! Now! PRO-ACT!